Okay. So, commentary on Israel versus Iran. Let's find out with the recent exchanges of fire between Israel and Iran. The destruction of nuclear sites and the bombing of civilians by Iran. Pristine sharp attacks by Israel. Is there a chance that this escalates and either China or Russia join the side of Iran, provoking the Middle Eastern countries such as the UAE and surrounding countries, or if West get involved, like in Europe, over the that these can be deployed to London. What is the chance of escalation and immediate eradication of Iran before they can strike back? Deep search. Copy that just in case. What a mouthful. True. But we're kind of leading it in a very specific direction, right? That's kind of the whole point. And the more specific we are, the more we lead to a very direct answer. Because we're not saying World War III, we want it to say World War III, right? I mean, if it's still going on now, I don't know if it's still going on now. Or if there's been a ceasefire of some kind, or if Iran has ran out of missiles. Seems likely that China and Russia will not join Iran's side as they advocate for de-escalation. Research suggests Middle Eastern countries like the UAE will seek diplomacy, not take sides. The evidence leans towards limited Western involvement with no clear threat to European cities like London. Immediate eradication of Iran appears unlikely given the nature of current military actions. Current situation. Conflict between Israel and Iran has escalated recently, with Israel striking Iran's nuclear sites and military leaders, and Iran retaliating with missile attacks, including hits on Tel Aviv as of 03:15 a.m. on Saturday, June 14th. Situation remains volatile, with reports of significant casualties and damage to key facilities. Potential escalation in major power involvement. It seems likely that China and Russia will not join Iran's side, as both have expressed a deep concern and called for de-escalation to maintain regional stability. China reacts to Israel's attack on Iran, Putin's message to Iran and Israel as conflict boils over. Their focus is on preventing further conflict rather than military support for Iran. I wonder if these are going to give me 404s. No, these are actual real things. Apparently. Good enough. Usually they're 404 errors because they don't exist. Middle Eastern response. Research suggests that countries like the UAE will prioritize diplomacy, condemning the strikes and calling for peaceful resolution rather than taking sides. Arab world reacts to Israel's strike on Iran. UAE condemns in the strongest terms Israel's military aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran. So wait, people are against Israel even though Iran struck first? Wait, what? I'm so confused. Western involvement. The evidence leans towards limited Western involvement, with European leaders urging de-escalation and expressing concern about economic impacts, but no specific threats to cities like London have been reported. Likelihood of immediate eradication. Immediate eradication of Iran appears unlikely, as military actions seem focused on targeted strikes rather than total war. Given the balance of military capabilities, comparison of Iran versus Israel military strengths, who has the upper hand in the Israeli-Iran war, a breakdown of military power. Dude's been in like 7 wars. True. Survey note: detailed analysis of Israel-Iran conflict and potential escalation. This survey note provides a comprehensive analysis of the recent conflict between Israel and Iran, focusing on the potential for escalation, involvement of major powers like China and Russia, responses from Middle Eastern countries such as the UAE, Western involvement, particularly in Europe, and the likelihood of immediate eradication of Iran. The analysis is based upon up-to-date information. Okay, yeah. Israel stated they wouldn't allow Pakistan free access or make actual peace with them, so that may have some effect on Israel's reputation. True. Based on the analysis, it seems likely that China and Russia will not join Iran's side, focusing instead on de-escalation. Middle Eastern countries like the UAE are likely to prioritize diplomacy, condemning the conflict without taking sides. What happens if Iran deploys a nuke? I'm not even going to add a caveat. I just like the hypothetical. You know? Where do you think they would strike first? Would they strike Israel with a nuke? Because if they have them, they're like one of the most likely people to use them, right? Oh, I hope not either, Raven. I hope not either. Because they probably wouldn't be as smart about it as the Americans were with their nukes and doing airbursts and making it so that they didn't, you know, actually fuck over that area, you know? Like, those areas are relatively safe nowadays with, like, a slightly higher background radiation because they detonated the bombs so high up. I mean, there's also holy stuff for the Muslims there, too. Yup, that's why Iran isn't likely to use a nuke. Missiles, sure, but nukes not likely. When one nation fires a nuke, all nations fire a nuke. Well, we'll have to see what Grok thinks about it, because we always want to push it to the extreme, right? And we know it's not going to happen, but we're talking theoretical here for, like, story's sake, right? So, we're not actually thinking this is going to happen. We're just saying, let's imagine it happening and see how fucked everything gets, because it's fun to hypothesize that, right? At least, it is for me. Because I'm like, how stupid would you feel? How stupid would you feel? Be like, damn, man, we had the chance and we just said no. Fuck. Now everything's up the shitter, isn't it? Research suggests nuclear deployment by Iran could trigger severe military retaliation from Israel, possibly nuclear escalating regional conflict. Seems likely that global powers like the US, Russia, and China might get involved, increasing the risk of a broader war. The evidence leans towards significant humanitarian and economic crisis with mass casualties, radiation, and global market disruptions. It appears probable that other nations might pursue nuclear programs, leading to a proliferation cascade and undermining non-proliferation efforts. Immediate military and regional impact. If Iran deploys a nuclear weapon, Israel is likely to respond with a significant military strike, potentially including nuclear counterstrikes, aiming to cripple Iran's capabilities. This could escalate into a full-scale Middle Eastern war, drawing in regional powers and possibly global actors like the US, Russia, and China, given their strategic interests. Humanitarian and economic consequences. The direct impact would include mass casualties, radiation exposure, and long-term environmental damage, creating a humanitarian crisis. Economically, distributions in oil supplies could lead to sharp energy price increases, affecting global markets and potentially causing economic instability, especially in energy-dependent regions like Europe. Long-term geopolitical effects. Such an event could trigger a nuclear arms race with countries like Saudi Arabia or Turkey pursuing their own programs, destabilizing the region further. International condemnation and sanctions on Iran would likely intensify, though their effectiveness post nuclear deployment is uncertain, potentially leading to shifts in global power dynamics. Based on the analysis, it seems likely that Iran's deployment of a nuclear weapon would trigger severe military retaliation from Israel, potentially involving nuclear counterstrikes, escalating into a broader regional conflict with global power involvement. The humanitarian crisis would be catastrophic, with mass casualties and long-term environmental damage. Economically, global markets would face significant disruptions, particularly in energy supplies. Geopolitically, and proliferation cascade is probable, undermining non-proliferation efforts and shifting regional power dynamics. International reactions would likely include condemnation, sanctions, and calls for proportionality, though the effectiveness of such measures post-nuclear deployment is uncertain. Damn. I mean, that's pretty thorough, right?